This is the case of the Queen versus Nielsen. The prosecution moves to reject the application for a permanent stay of the defense's indictment and submits that Nielsen is guilty of murder under Section 302 of the Criminal Code and manslaughter under Section 303. The following are the reasons for this submission. The first submission is that Nielsen was an executor in the murder of the deceased. Under Section 71A of the Criminal Code, an executor is every person who actually does the act which constitutes an offence. Every person includes Nielsen, as she assaulted the deceased along with Doppler. The Queen versus Wales in 1977 at page 169 displayed that one person does not need to carry out all the acts. They just need to do at least one of the acts which constitutes an offence. Nielsen was not responsible for the full assault of the deceased. The majority was actually carried out by Doppler, and Nielsen only kicked him a few times. However, it was her kicking him that still contributed to the assault. A blunt force caused the murder. It is known that Nielsen's foot was not the only blunt instrument used, as a baton was also present. However, the foot did contribute to assaulting him. The contribution may have worsened his injuries and contributed to his death. I will now take the court to my second submission. Under Section 71B of the Code, every person who does an act for the purpose of enabling or aiding another person to commit the offence is deemed to have taken part in committing the offence. Nielsen's act was lowering the deceased to a farmhouse by picking him up from a wine bar. This act enabled the assault to take place as she drove him to the place where the assault was planned. By doing this, she aided Doppler and herself to assault him. The mental element of intent was present as she purposely drove him to the farmhouse. As she enabled the murder to take place, she should also be guilty of the murder. I move to my next argument in Section 71C, where every person who aids another person in committing an offence is also guilty of that offence. We know that from the Queen versus Beck in 1990 at page 30, by aiding it is meant to give support, helping or assisting another. Nielsen helped Doppler to assault the deceased as she held the deceased so Doppler could assault him with a baton. Assaulting the man with the baton no doubt contributed to his murder. Another aspect seen in the Queen versus Beck was intentional encouragement. This is seen where Nielsen did not object to the assault and held the man to be assaulted by Doppler. These aspects all signify approval. With an aider, a mental element must be present, as seen with Borg versus the Queen in 1972. At page 190, the mental element was displayed here as the parties knew the offence would be committed. It is quite evident in this situation. Nielsen knew Doppler would assault the deceased. As she aided with the murder, she should be charged with the murder under Section 302. I submit that Nielsen is guilty of murder as it was a probable consequence of the original offence. Under Section 8, where two people have a common intention to carry out an offence and then the offence they ended up committing was beyond what they originally envisioned, if the offence was actually committed was a probable offence of the planned offence, was a probable consequence of the planned offence, one may be charged with the actual offence committed. Nielsen and Doppler had the common intention to carry out the offence of assault. Nielsen stated that she did not aim for grievous bodily harm to be caused and that she was shocked when he died. Even though Nielsen did not plan to commit murder, it can be said that murder was a probable consequence of carrying out this assault. We know from Darkin versus the Queen that a probable consequence means it could well happen. It can be said that murder could have well happened from this assault. As Nielsen knew of Doppler's hostility and anger towards the deceased, she was also on drugs and had taken alcohol beforehand, which can increase aggression and decrease her reaction to the man that was actually being attacked. As well as this, she had martial arts skills and a heavy frame, which means the force applied could be quite great. It was a probable consequence that this could be a very ferocious assault and that it could lead to death. Nielsen told Doppler not to use a baton before the assault. However, Doppler still bought the baton. When the baton was actually produced, even though she told her not to use the baton at first, Nielsen did not try and stop Doppler from using the baton. In fact, she encouraged it when we refer back to paragraph 3, where she allowed the deceased to beat him with said baton while she held him. It was a probable consequence that this baton used to ferociously assault someone resulted in severe injuries and then death. Section 8 is in conjunction to 7(1)(b) and (c), as when Nielsen was enabling and aiding the offence, she only planned to aid and enable an assault. However, It was probable that this assault would be ferocious and kill the man. Therefore, under Section 8, Nelson can be considered guilty.